They related to midlife crisis. It says somewhere when you're in your late 30s or your 40s or whatever it is.
That's when we come back to you and we say, please give us a metric.
People around you are going to feel that, hey, this guy is, something is wrong with this chap.
In Strava, a lot many times, only a set of people end up noticing my workouts.
That's okay. I've got athletes telling me, my heart rate is going up. Who asked you to look at your heart rate? How do you know your heart rate is going up?
Hi, so in today's episode, we have Coach Sridhar Venkataraman. Today, we will be discussing endurance sports and its impact on health and fitness. A little introduction about Coach, while he's very well known in the triathlon circle, but he is, and I don't want to get this wrong, he's 3 times full Ironman, uh, 14 times half Ironman, 4 times full marathon, including the very famous Boston Marathon. Then you are a cricketer, a mountaineer, a paraglider, and a rock climber from your past. You are an Ironman certified coach. You've done a diploma in neuroscience of behavior change, exercise science, lifestyle medicine from Harvard Extension School. Oh my God. I want to stop there and I want to let you introduce yourself and a little bit about how you got into triathlon.
Thank you, Ila. Thank you for having me here in this podcast. And I'm very happy to be sharing my experiences with anybody who's interested in knowing this field of endurance sport. Well, I kind of stumbled into this sport pretty late in life, but I'm happy that I got into it at the point of time at which I did. Well, I was quite an ordinary, you know, r- athlete in the beginning. When I used to play sports like you said, cricket, badminton, etc. Just like everybody else at in the 20s do that. The first sport which I got a little bit passionate about was rock climbing, where we had a good community of people with whom we used to go and climb in and around Bangalore, the kind of Bangalore which is not, which many people will not be able to relate to today. Much more quieter, much more greener, and many of those rocks don't even exist today here in Bangalore. They've been covered. For example, Thuralli, which we call Uttarahalli, was a beautiful bouldering space which
Wow.
we were climbing.
So great for outdoors.
Absolutely. I remember taking my children out, just like we go out for cycling every weekend. I used to take both my children in tow, and we used to go bouldering every Sunday morning.
Wow.
Yeah,
And it must have been so rare at that point in time.
absolutely. Yeah, and it used to be a half a day affair when you used to leave in the morning, early morning before the sun rises, and we used to come back just in time for lunch with the kids. And Ramnagaram is fortunately still a mecca of rock climbing even now. We used to go to rock climb. We used to do a lot of rock climbing in Ramnagaram, Savandurga. I don't know whether you've heard of this place called Savandurga.
I have.
You have?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's beautiful.
beautiful place. We have done a number of climbs in Savandurga. We have even done some film shooting for Himalaya Putra.
Oh,
For that
really?
matter. Yes, we
Okay.
introduced Akshay Khanna
Oh.
into the film world by shooting by dubbing for him
Hmm.
in Savandurga in Himalaya Putra.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You are the OG.
Well, I'm happy to have been. I mean, I was just a part of this community, and there were a lot of people who are famous rock climbers those days who are still climbing. Some of them are triathletes. Well, I was just fortunate, I should say, that I found the right group at the right time. But then got into corporate life and struggled to keep up with other activities. You know how it happens,
Yeah.
right? Then at some point of time, I got into paragliding, uh, high adrenaline sport,
Yes.
and well, I kind of gave it up after I had one serious accident in paragliding, which almost broke my back. Should have got my license. Did a number of jumps that day, and the last jump I landed on my seat, and well, I was in a harness for about 6 months.
Oh,
And
God.
yeah, then I thought, okay, maybe this sport. I mean, it kind of freaked me out. I said, okay, let me do something which is little less risky. I forgot to tell you, I've done mountaineering in between rock climbing, and I've done my basic mountaineering course In those days, when I did it in Darjeeling,
Oh,
basic
wow.
mountaineering. Yeah, we did a summit in Bandarpunch
Hmm.
in Himachal in 1986. I was part of the summit team in that.
Lovely.
And then we have done a lot of high altitude treks all over the Himalayas and Nepal. But finally, I got into triathlon because it was a sport where I don't have to depend on others. I could do it by myself. I could just go out for a run by myself. I could just go out and cycle by myself. So I discovered this sport, and one thing led to another, and here I am.
That's great. Actually, a part of my story is also similar.
Really?
I have taken up a course in paragliding.
Oh,
So I've
really?
done several solo
Wow.
flights.
Hmm.
That was in Pune near Kamshet. I don't know whether you heard
Yes,
of
yes,
that.
yes, I know.
So that I've done. I'm also trained in snow skiing
Wow.
and horse riding. But
Wow.
that lasted only so much. And then suddenly triathlon hit. So it just
Okay.
changed everything for me. But great to hear about you. I wanted to ask you some rapid fire questions.
Sure.
So, in the realm of health, fitness, and better living,
Hmm.
what would be your answer for these questions? One habit that matters most.
Consistency.
Hmm. That's a big one.
Yeah.
Anything that you want to add on that?
Yeah. I mean, it's the most difficult trait to be consistent. It's you when you start doing something, like I tell people, it's very easy to start.
Hmm.
You say one fine day you get excited. You say, okay, I'm ready. Let me go and sign up for it, and you sign up for it. 1 week goes great.
Hmm.
Another 3 days you push yourself. The reality hits you on the 10th day
Hmm.
when you find that your motivation level has dropped a little bit, or you find something has come in the way, and you're not able to overcome it,
Yeah.
and it breaks the momentum.
Hmm.
And once the momentum is broken, you don't know how to get back to it. So it's just kind of a cycle. Consistency, if you are able to build a certain amount of consistency in your training,
Hmm.
that's going to make or break uh, your triathlon training, and for that matter, anything.
Anything. That's
You
right.
need to be consistent
Yeah.
before you are able to succeed in anything.
Yeah. That makes sense to me. One mistake to avoid.
One mistake to avoid is don't get excited too much
Hmm.
and overtrain. One of the
Hmm.
biggest problems I find in a lot of triathletes is that they overtrain,
Hmm.
and this overtraining happens when either they overtrain in the beginning
Hmm.
and injure themselves, or they overtrain just before a race and injure themselves.
Yeah.
So you have to follow a structured plan. Do not overtrain.
And you are a coach, right? You have so many trainees, including me. I'm sure this has come between us. Like in my training, this must have happened once or twice, right? And
It
in general, you must have seen with a lot of people.
it is very common. It
Yeah.
is very common, and that is why you need a coach, because
Yeah.
it's only the coach who can pull you back and tell you, hey, listen, take it easy. You don't have to do this.
Yeah.
You don't have to do one race after the other. You don't have
Yeah.
to be doing 20 kilometers because you missed 10 kilometers yesterday.
Yeah. I think some of us do that. Some of us think exactly like that.
Yes, a lot of us do that. In
It's the
fact,
opposite side of having no consistency. It's like compensating more and more.
absolutely right. Exactly right. These are two sides of the
Yeah.
same coin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. One metric that you trust the most in your endurance training.
The metric I would trust the most is when I get up in the morning,
Mm.
how good I feel.
Hmm.
Because not every day, every mornings are great.
Hmm.
So, and if I feel that there's something not great, then I go and check back to see what my resting heart rate has been.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And generally, I'll find a correlation. I've not had a good sleep. My resting heart rate has been high.
Hmm.
It gives me an indication that yes, you're not all that great today. So instead of going for if I had an interval run for that day,
Hmm.
I will probably convert it into a tempo easy run instead of doing a hard interval run of that day.
Okay.
Yeah,
And that.
but that has to correlate. Sometimes your mind can give you can trick you.
Hmm.
So if you find that maybe the first 3 kilometers usually decides like how you feel.
Hmm.
You get out, hit that should not be an excuse not to start your workout. But the first 2 or 3 kilometers, if you feel okay, fine, it will disappear. Then you're okay. You go and do your interval run. But if it persists after the third kilometer, yes, that's the time when you just pull back, just do an easy run and go back.
Got it. And you're using your resting heart rate as an indicator of
Indicator.
something else. We're not
Absolutely.
fully depending on it.
Not fully dependent. Correct. Right.
Cool. And this is something we'll talk about later in the
Absolutely right. Yeah.
episode as well.
So these indicators are indicators, and you have to give them a certain amount of weightage, but you can't go completely by what it says.
That makes sense. One reason people quit too early, you think? And you would have seen that a lot, right? Given your experience in coaching as well. People quitting.
Yeah, people quit too early because people haven't thought of their whys.
That's a totally different point.
Yeah.
It doesn't relate to any of being in endurance sport.
You must be very honest about your why. Why am I doing it? If if the why is not strong, that when you quit, usually what happens is when you're about to quit, the why will stand up and say, "Hey, I'm doing this because of this. I'm doing this for my health, or I'm doing this to prove something to myself. I'm doing this to or whatever reason it is." If that why is not strong, you're going to quit.
Makes sense. Now, getting a little technical about it, but negative split or even pacing for any race?
Wow, that's a tough one. Now, actually, negative split or even pacing is dependent on how mature an athlete you are. Usually, negative split is, I would recommend negative split for a mature athlete, a strong athlete, and I would prefer if you go for an even pace for an intermediate athlete.
Got it. Okay, this is very important. One sign that you think that shows that the athlete is nearing a burnout.
One sign that is nearing a burnout is you start getting irritable, you don't get enough sleep, you are generally useless in every other field of your life. Right?
Got it.
So that's a time when you can be very sure that if you say, "Hey, what's wrong with you?" Your people around you are going to feel that, hey, this guy is something is wrong with this chap. Either he's either he's half the time he is like a zombie, or he's too low in spirit or too high in spirits. One of the two things. He's not normal. People around you can feel it and they will tell you. And if you relate that to actually what's going on in you, yes, that's a burnout time.
Yeah. Okay. Strength training optional or no?
Strength training is absolutely important, but it's not whether strength is question of what kind of strength training. See, strength training is always related to what you're training for. If you're training to build your muscle, you're going to do different type of strength training. If you're trying to be a power lifter, your strength training is different. If you're running a marathon, your strength training. If you're doing high rocks, your strength training is different. If you're doing a triathlon, your strength training has to be geared towards what you're doing for a triathlon. If leave this all aside, if you are just trying to maintain yourself, if you're just, let's say you are in your senior years and you just want to maintain yourself healthy, that strength training is completely different. So strength training is important, but you should know what you should have a purpose.
Right. Right. So it's not optional, basically. I mean, it's recommended to
It
do
is definitely, I would say that it is mandatory for everybody to train for strength. Is absolutely important. Like, what are you doing in strength? You see, I would say, look at the body as an engine and chassis. When you're doing endurance training, you're training your heart and your lungs, but your chassis is your body, strength training. If the chassis is weak and the engine is strong,
then it makes no sense.
The car is going to break down. Right? So it has to be, you have to build a good chassis which will be able to carry you.
Right. Okay, thanks so much for your thoughts on that.
Welcome.
Let's move on. And the one thing that I wanted to focus on, because you are an endurance athlete, basically, whether it is just running, swimming, cycling, you've done it a lot through the years. I wanted to ask you, and not a lot of people in India are still into endurance sports. Running has picked up a lot, but cycling, okay, a little bit, swimming, definitely much lesser. But what are the three key characters that comes to your mind when you think of anybody who wants to be or who is an endurance athlete?
No, when you you're talking about only endurance athlete, or you're talking about a triathlete?
Endurance athlete.
Endurance athlete can be, you can, if you're doing a half marathon, you're an endurance athlete.
Yes. Yeah,
If
yeah.
you are doing any cycling which is more than 50 kilometers or 100 kilometers, if you're doing, you're an endurance cyclist.
Mhm.
If you are doing open water swimming, which involves more than 2 hours of swimming, you're an endurance athlete.
Yeah.
So, an endurance athlete, by definition, is somebody who is trying to push his limits. Is not necessarily doing it at a high intensity. For example, a sprinter is not an endurance athlete.
Yes.
A 100-meter sprinter, 200-meter sprinter is not an endurance athlete. Whereas somebody who's doing it 21 kilometers is an endurance. So, for an endurance athlete, strength is not so much important as as the word endurance says, being able to endure, being able to sustain. You should be able to sustain for a long period of time a repeated motion.
Right.
If you are able to, if you, and that repeated motion, whether swimming, cycling, or running, if you are able to sustain it for a certain threshold period of time,
Yeah.
that person is an endurance athlete. And walking can also be an endurance athlete,
Yeah.
because if you are doing really high powered walking, you're an endurance athlete,
Yeah.
mind
Yeah.
you. So that's an endurance athlete. Now, people normally do not drift into endurance training because it's not really necessary to do endurance training in order to in order to be, let's say, reasonably fit. You can go for a long walk at a zone one. Let's not talk about zones at this time.
Yeah.
We'll come to that later on.
Yeah.
You can go for an easy long walk every day for 1 hour and still be reasonably fit enough to do what you want.
Yeah.
But if you want to run for about 1.5 hours, you're an endurance athlete. You're doing it for a different purpose.
Right. Right.
It's high fitness versus moderate fitness.
Yeah. So in my opinion, I see a typical, not typical, but I see a type of people who end up picking endurance because it's
Right.
not for everyone. I mean, it's like you pick up arts or
True.
some other sports, but for me, it's somebody who's, like you said, ready to endure.
Correct.
But also, it is important to note that it is not enduring the pain. People generally associate endure with pain. You're not enduring pain, right? It's early on in my coaching, you had said boredom is another thing that you have to endure. Endurance athletes go solo for a long period of time. So in that sense, what do you think are those 2, 3 things that define an endurance athlete?
Yeah. So an endurance athlete is actually crossing the threshold from just doing an activity into it becomes it's a process of discovery that happens, which pushes an endurance athlete. So the normal progression of an endurance athlete, let's say a runner for that matter. Okay, let's see what happens to him. He starts by walking. Then he sees people around him jogging. Running is walking is the most natural activity.
Yeah.
Everybody walks
Yeah.
as a child. Running is actually a very natural activity. You see, when somebody asked me, when did you start running? I told him, look, the question is wrong. Like, when did you stop running is more important than when did you
That's
start
true.
running.
Yeah.
You see a child, you see a normal default mode for a 5-year-old toddler is to run, not walk,
Correct.
right? At some point, you stop running. Why? Because there's obstacles around you. If there are buildings around you, there are cars, there are trams, they are coming. So a child is asked, "No, hey, don't run, don't run." You stop the child from running,
Yeah, that's a subconscious in us.
right?
Yeah.
If you let the child be by itself, the child is not going to stop running. The child will continue to run. If you are left alone in a field, in an open ground, you will run, you will walk, you'll run, you'll walk. Running is a very natural activity.
Yeah.
So what you're trying to do is you're trying to, when you're left by yourself, you are trying to rediscover a form of motion which you feel comfortable with. You will naturally break into a run.
Right.
If you are walking for some time, you'll get bored. You will naturally break into a run, right? If you have to actually hold yourself back not to run.
Correct.
You're right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Totally
So
true.
when you start running, then the process of discovery starts when you push a little faster, a little faster. then you say, okay, fine. It's a process that is continuing to happen. It's a discovery process, and once you let's say you get carried away. I'm talking about how the progression happens for a natural endurance athlete. So one fine day he gets carried away. He runs fast, and after that he stops and he comes back and he says, "Hey, He feels good,
Yeah.
man. I feel it's great,
Yeah.
right?
I
It's a
think it
discovery."
looks like you're talking about my journey.
Exactly. It's a discovery. Wasn't it
Yes.
a discovery?
Yeah.
That you come back and you feel great?
Yeah.
Maybe I should do it again.
Yeah.
So that's what you do. You go again, you run 10 kilometers, you run 5 kilometers, and you say, every time I run, I feel good. Why don't I run every day? Then you say, okay, what happens if I run 12 kilometers? Then you push yourself. Do I feel better? Yeah, then there is going to be then there is a certain point of time when there is going to be a plateau, and then there is going to go dip, and you're going to up, you're going to come down. So an uncoached athlete will hit the wall at some point of time when he pushes himself so hard that he gets injured.
Correct.
So when you get injured, you stop running. Either the injury is semi-permanent or it is permanent. Like, for example, you might develop plantar fasciitis, for example, or Achilles tendonitis. These are the most common kind of running ailment. So usually what happens is people stop running and then they forget how nice they felt, and they give up running altogether. So an endurance athlete is somebody who is in the process of discovery. He starts uh, then as you talked about boredom, you will start when you're running for a long distance. It's just you and you.
Yeah.
Right? It's you, yourself, it's the nature around you. You start looking at yourself inward more and more. And it's like you start getting comfortable with yourself.
Mm.
An endurance athlete is a person who gets the more comfortable you get with yourself, the longer you go. Whether it is a swimmer or a cyclist or an endurance runner, this person is somebody who is comfortable with himself. He looks, and it's not boredom. It's not monotony anymore.
Yeah.
So
For some people, it's also meditative.
it is meditative.
Yeah.
It becomes meditation. I say that running, cycling, swimming for me is meditation in motion.
Yeah. 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 Just on that topic, I mean, what is your favorite sport out of the three?
Wow, that's a good question. Actually, my favorite sport is actually cycling.
Okay.
Yeah, that's because I have a certain because I can go faster in when I'm cycling. The the visual let me put it this way: the visual stimuli are much more in cycling than in running or swimming. In swimming, I have a big problem that I don't get the visual stimuli is the least for me.
That's true.
In running, yes, there is, but it's not as much as it is in cycling. In cycling, I can see it. The wind blows behind me, the environment changes, and I love it if in fact I like mountainous cycling, although it's much more harder because the scenery changes. If which each climb you do, you come down, you get a chance to pause, you get a chance to breathe. So I love cycling.
Lovely. I used to like running a lot. And then I developed a love-hate relationship with running. When it's going good, it's really enjoyable for me.
Yeah.
When it's not, then it just challenges you to the core.
Right.
Because running is not easy. I mean,
It's
if you
not easy.
compare just swimming, cycling, and running, I still feel running is the hardest.
Yeah.
Direct impact on the knees, or also because triathlon, it always comes in the end, so naturally it is harder.
You should hold yourself back in running. You should when you feel that if you want to really enjoy running, you should learn to walk.
Really?
Yes, you should learn to walk in between running. You try it out, Ila. I'm telling you, next time you go for a run, do not tell yourself that okay, it's fine, it's okay to walk the next 1 kilometer or 100 meters. Let me walk.
Really? I mean, isn't it counterintuitive from
No.
racing perspective?
Don't think that's the point. Don't think you're racing.
Ah,
Do not consider every training run to be a race.
yeah.
In fact,
I think that's another mistake we do as athletes.
You need to take strategic breaks.
Ah,
In fact, you should learn to take breaks you should push yourself to take breaks in between, whether you want it or not. Run for 3 kilometers, take a break for take a pause
Right.
for some time, run the next 2 kilometers, take a pause, whether you like it or not. I'm telling you, you will go much farther, much faster than you would without taking the breaks.
Yeah.
This is what my coach, if he's hearing it, Tim Ballantyne, has taught me.
Okay.
He has given me workouts where he puts breaks in between. I was not doing that before.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So he gives me a workout. He says, okay, 3 kilometers, and then I see that there's a break. I have to stop and I walk.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Even during training.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It makes it more enjoyable because sometimes with running you get tired the most. I
Yes.
mean, if I do a 1 hour tough workout between run, cycle, and swim, for sure, I come out the most tired out of a running workout.
Running is a tough sport.
Yeah.
It is tougher than it is among all the three. It is the toughest.
If you are trying to improve, like if you are going at the same pace for a long time, you can just keep going on.
You will improve only. You've heard of this phrase saying, "Run slow to run fast."
Yes. Yes.
So
Yeah.
the slower, the more you're able to hold back.
Yeah.
And you will find that you start enjoying the running more, and when you start enjoying the running more, you're going to get faster.
Yeah, that's true.
You have to stick to zone 2.
Correct.
80% zone 2, 20%, that's the formula. 80-20.
Yeah. And that brings me to another point that I wanted to discuss is that in endurance sport, and in fact for any sport, the improvement is not rarely linear.
Absolutely right.
It has not happened with me,
Yeah.
for sure. I mean, or rather, it has not been linear for me. What is your take on that?
Absolutely right. It is not going to be linear. First of all, you must understand that what is happening in your body.
Yeah.
There is a process. You're putting your body under stress, recovering. Putting your body under stress, you're recovering. Okay, this is a process. Your body is adapting to the extra stress you're putting. Now each body is different. So you will reach a plateau at some point of time, and you will probably remain in the plateau for quite some time. And that is the part which is most frustrating. Is you'll find that you've reached a plateau, you can't go beyond it, and you say, "Oh, what the hell? Like my life is done, so there's no use. I'm not able to go faster. I'm not able to this thing." So you get depressed. Enjoy the plateau.
Yeah.
I mean, how many people are there? How many people have been able to reach this plateau? Enjoy the plateau while you will find that after some time.
That's true, actually. Yeah.
After some time, you'll find that you'll find you're going faster, and you'll find another plateau. It's not necessary that you should not think it is linear progression. That's why you should treat it as a process progress. That's why I say this is a journey.
It is a journey. It is a journey.
What's a journey? It's not a 45-degree. There is curves, there's ups and downs, there's valleys. When you're going for a high altitude trek, there's ups and downs. Yes, and there are plateaus.
Yeah, it's like that.
It's like that.
Yeah, I remember initially when I started preparing for my first 70.3, I felt sick and I used to be so distressed, thinking my training is stopped but now when I fall sick, I take it as an advantage. I mean, I just rest for a week. Let my body rest for a week. And then when I come out of it, I'm more hungry to sort of do my workouts well and complete everything.
See, there are two ways of looking at this. One is the good thing about triathlon is if you can always swim or bike if you cannot run, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So use that period.
The variety helps.
I don't know whether you saw some of my videos earlier when I broke my leg. There was a month when I had broken my leg. I was only concentrating on strength training. And that to upper body. I can't do the lower body.
Yeah.
So I just concentrated on upper body strength training.
Yeah.
During the entire period.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to be innovative about things. Okay, let's assume. Okay, if you're lucky, if it is just a physical injury to one part of your body, like your leg or your hand or something of the sort, triathlon is extremely good because you can do a lot of things.
Correct. Yeah.
But let's say that, God forbid, you might fall sick. You may not be able to do anything for that matter. You can use that time to do a lot of reading.
Correct. Absolutely right. I mean, that is going to be very useful for people who are watching this podcast, I think, because we do not pay attention to that.
A lot of us, do this sport. We don't find enough time to read up on different aspects of triathlon. There are some fantastic books on endurance. There's a which I would recommend a book called Endure by Alex Hutchinson.
Mm.
So, and you can these are the kind of books which you can do a lot of reading, and you will come back motivated, and probably you're sick. You what you would you would have if you have been sick for about 10 days,
Mm.
you will get back within 7 days because that's the endorphins that releases you're going to get healed faster.
Lovely, lovely. Just talking about triathlons, I was reading somewhere on an average across Ironman events, about 5 to 10% of competitors fail to finish.
Fail to finish. Yeah.
And that is disheartening. I mean,
Yes,
you're
it is.
there and you're not able to finish it. And the reasons could be is a lot of like extreme conditions, heat, humidity, and such. Um, and then the percentage is even higher in some specific races, like I think Ironman 170.3 in 2022. About 30% people fail to finish. How do you relate all the training that goes into it to eventually, being in the race in a foreign land and then you end up failing? I mean, is for some people that may be a deterrent to even start training because, I mean, just an excuse also, call it whatever.
You see, they say something, if you have to fail, fail spectacularly, right? So if
Yeah.
you are attempting something as arduous as a triathlon, there's nothing wrong in failing.
Mm.
How many people even tried to do a triathlon?
Yeah.
So why do you feel bad about failing? And if you fail once, doesn't mean that next time you're not going to fail. I mean, you can come back. You have if you have watched the latest world championship races,
Mm.
the top triathletes have failed.
Yeah.
The top, you would see Lucy Charles Barclay
Yeah. Pulling out of that.
pulling out of a race when she's right in front.
Yeah.
No, the thing is that you are pushing yourself to the limit. You are discovering your limit. There is a limit which she discovered that she can't go beyond that.
Yeah.
Yes, you have to be, this some amount of humility which is required.
Yes, absolutely. So
Yeah.
true.
This is the problem with us. We get carried away. Iron Man. I'm Iron Man.
Yeah.
You don't realize that at the end of the day, you're nothing but DNA. There's no difference between you, me, and Christian Blumenfeld or Lucy Charles Buckley. Absolutely no difference. We all have the same 23 chromosomes, right? There's nothing great.
Mm.
But therefore, there's nothing wrong in failing. And it is going to happen sometime or the other. In fact, if you don't fail, that means you're not tried hard enough.
That's a good way to look at it, actually. Yeah. Very important.
And don't think that you're such a great thing that you can't fail. Everybody fails.
Mm. And if pros at that level can fail, then we are trying to we are amateurs basically.
Absolutely right.
We have a full day job and
Yeah.
things like that, other responsibilities, and just parallelly manage.
What is more important is how you bounce back after the failure sets you apart from the other person.
Mm.
That's I would say that person who bounces back is a better athlete. Simone Biles, okay. If you have seen her documentary,
Mm.
you would see that the whole world was watching. America was saying that she's the next best, she is the best gymnast, she's going to bring all the gold in Tokyo. She quit. She quit while she was at the top,
Mm.
and then she came back.
Mm.
The story of Simone Biles is how she came back.
Mm. That's where your mental toughness gets tested.
Absolutely right.
And that's actually the next topic I also wanted to discuss, the mental part of it, right?
Yeah.
The 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 mental strength it takes to endure and train for anything, in fact. And for me, the core question here is whether it is inherent, whether it is talent, or it is practice.
Oh, well, it's actually, let's say, it's a complex question. Why do people from Kenya, Ethiopia, and other places, it's very difficult for you to, you will find that the first 7 or 8 of your marathon runners are those from that part of the world.
Yeah.
Why? Because that's genes. Because of the fact that people from that region have got a certain kind of genes, which makes them much faster runners than the others. Okay, that's one part of the story. Okay, okay. So it's not it is talent, yes, to some extent, yes. You know about genotype and phenotype,
Mm-hmm.
right? A genotype is what is there in your genes. A phenotype is the expression of the genes.
Mm-hmm.
So it is not, you're not limited. You at a certain level you're going to be limited by talent, but we are not there. We are all beginner triathletes. For us, talent is not that much. Talent makes a difference only when it comes to a certain level. Till
Mm.
that level, talent is not really great, not really uh, not really relevant for people like you and me and the average triathlete.
Okay.
It's the mental strength that is important. Now, when you there are two things: physical strength and mental strength. Of course, you need to build your physical strength, but triathlon and endurance sport is more about it's more about mental strength. And what is mental strength is also can be broken up into various things.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
it's boredom, patience,
Yeah.
ability to the threshold of pain. All these things constitute mental strength. It's a very big subject by itself. And when you train, you're not just training your body, you're training your mind.
Yeah.
When you're running, you
That's
say,
an
okay,
important point.
each time you find, okay, I'm going to give up. Say, no, let me just do a little bit more. What you're telling your mind is, look, your mind, it's a new threshold that is set. Your mind gets comfortable with the threshold.
Yeah.
So each time your mind gets comfortable with the threshold, you're training your muscle. Imagine your brain has got muscles. You're training the muscle memory of your brain.
Correct. Yeah.
That's what it is.
And so that's why I feel that a lot of people I see in triathlon, they have a certain type of mental makeup already. They're not people who are anyway going to quit easily, I feel. And that's why the other topic we discussed, where people go overboard to achieve something. I see a lot of us are like that.
I have seen people, both kind of people.
Okay.
I have seen people who come into triathlon who are who do not have a great amount of mental. They come here to build mental strength to
Hmm.
triathlon.
Okay.
So they discover their inner strength, mental strength, which everybody. I tell you what, it's not that you have a reserve of. Everybody has the same reserves of mental strength. Everybody has it. For some, it is dormant. For some, it is not so dormant. For those who are dormant, it's just a question of waking up that mental strength.
Hmm.
For those whose mental strength is already there, it's a question of utilizing it.
Hmm.
So I do not think that mental strength is not a talent. I wouldn't say that the mental strength of Ed Kipchoge is different from you or me. We all have this. Only thing is Kipchoge has trained it. That's it.
Hmm.
We all start with the same reserves. We can train it.
Interesting. So I'm basically, what I'm understanding is, you may have certain amount of mental strength, but if you start training,
Yeah.
you will build more and more of it.
You'll wake up what the mental strength which is there already in you first thing.
Hmm.
And if you have it, you will simply you will build that up more.
Okay.
So the curve is very fast. I would say that for those who have a reserve of mental strength they don't know they had, very quickly they discover that they have that mental strength.
Hmm.
For those who have that mental strength, then they reach a plateau. Then it's a question of pushing it to higher and higher.
So would you agree that there's a certain type of people who get into endurance sports? Have you noticed any pattern that?
I have noticed a different kind of pattern. I have found a pattern of people whom I have seen at least,
Hmm.
who get into endurance sport are people who are generally those who feel the need to challenge themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody who doesn't feel, somebody who feels that he has already arrived is not going to become a triathlete or an endurance athlete.
Hmm.
He's quite happy where he is. And the endurance athlete is a person who feels there is something missing. in him, and he's trying to find that. It's almost like a saint in search of a knowledge. There is something that is missing. I got to find that missing part to make me whole again.
Yeah.
That feeling when it comes, that's when you become a. I've seen most people.
Yeah.
And usually it happens somewhere around, that's why I call this, they relate it to midlife crisis. It says somewhere when you're in your late 30s or your 40s or whatever it is, you find that you get a feeling of dissatisfaction about how things are moving, and you want to fill that void. You start doing triathlons.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like you're just telling my story. Next important topic that I wanted to pick up was metrics, right? I mean,
Right.
I hear that in triathlon and this space, basically swimming, cycling, running, probably we are monitoring ourselves more than most other sports. This is feedback I have read somewhere. But I wanted to check in general, what are some of the basic metrics anybody can track?
The That's actually I have a love-hate relationship with metrics. I think we kind of overuse metrics. The average triathlete overuses metrics. Why do I say you overuse metrics? Is because we don't. We have lost many of them. I have to tell them what I have to start explaining to them what is RPE, rate of perceived exertion. That's one. That's the most important metric I would say is RPE. Now, what is RPE? It's a rate of perceived exertion. So you should know on a scale of 1 to 5, are you doing in 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5?
Yeah.
Most people find it very difficult to figure out the difference between 1 and 2, 2 and 3, 3 and 4, 4 and 5. There are very different. I can explain it in theory also. They explain that, if you can sing while you're running, you're in zone 1. If you can talk while you're running, you're in zone 2. If you can talk in broken sentences when you're running, you're in zone 3. If you can't talk at all, you're in zone 4.
Right.
Zone 5, you don't even forget about talking, you don't even think. So if you can actually relate it to, it's an easy way of relating. Let's say zone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? Now, then comes, okay, then you try to relate. If you are able to do, if you know what your zones are, you are a really mature triathlete. I at least know one triathlete whom I have met who doesn't run with even a watch, full Ironman.
A lot of people would love to hear that.
I'm not there yet. I love to, I would probably one day want to do a triathlon without wearing a watch, just by going by feel.
Yeah. It's so difficult.
It's so difficult. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, having done so many races, I totally can imagine why it's a big thing actually.
Yes.
We are so dependent on our watches right now.
Yeah. You keep watching, am I at 6 or 6.5 or 6.10? Because you don't trust yourself. You want to look at a gadget all the time.
Yeah.
To see whether it is right or wrong.
Right.
Right. So metrics, when you're talking about, the most important metric according to me is your RPE, rate of perceived exertion, and you should know how to do that. That's why I prescribe sometimes workouts that today you're running without your watch.
Yeah, and that's when we come back to you and we say, please give us a metric. RP.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
I've got athletes telling me, my heart rate is going up. Who asked you to look at your heart rate? How do you know your heart rate is going up? Did I give you heart rate based training? I gave you a pace based training. Why are you talking about your heart rate?
Yeah.
So don't get mixed up in metrics. Okay, but having said that, the other metric which you need to know is basic metric is when you get up in the morning. If you should be able to know whether you had a good sleep or not.
That's another big one.
It's difficult. Then if you feel that you had a good sleep, there are monitors which, like, your Garmin tells you, like, what's your percentage of sleep, what's the quality of sleep. Things are improving, but you can't go entirely by what your Garmin is telling you. It gives you a rough indication of how your sleep has been. It also, your resting heart rate is probably much more accurate. I have seen that when I'm training harder and harder, I've noticed that my resting heart rate is going down and down.
Hmm.
I personally have touched 38
Wow.
in resting heart
Yeah.
rate. It was 2 days back. It was 39, and I can tell you in my training career, it has never touched. It has never gone below. I used to be like 2 years before, my resting heart rate used to be somewhere around 47, 48.
Oh my God. So that's a huge change.
Yeah. So I've noticed that the harder I train, the lower my resting heart. And I can make out that when my resting heart rate is low in the morning when I get up, I know that I've had a good sleep. I had enough sufficient amount of rest, and I feel good about it. So the metric you look for is how good you feel in the morning, and then look at your watch to see what is your resting heart rate. Now, if two things fall in place, I'm not feeling good, my resting heart rate has been up,
Hmm.
then it's definite that that day has to be an easy day for you. You shouldn't push.
Hmm. This is gold, actually, this piece of advice, because even I don't do that right now. But I think, and a lot of people, a lot of my friends, they don't want to wear gadgets. There's that mental block. But for them, this is
Yeah,
absolute
I also
amazing
hate
piece of
wearing a
advice.
watch, but then I believe there are some other devices which have come which you can wear it on your arm. I know
Okay.
that wearing anything on your skin is invasive,
Hmm.
but I haven't. Otherwise, you should be able to figure out, like, in the morning you get up and say, you should be able to know like how good you felt. If you are able to figure that out accurately, by all means go ahead with that.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. How do you use this is for anybody, right? But
Sorry, help me finish then.
yeah.
Metrics. When it comes to metrics, apart from your RPA, if you
Hmm.
really want to go by metrics in running, is heart rate and pace. You have to see the correlation between, over a period of time. You'll be able to divide your zones between your zone 1, 2, 3, 4,
Hmm.
5 in terms of heart rate and also in terms of pace. But for that, you have to do proper tests. You should do a run test where you are able to push your heart rate to the maximum, and you should set your maximum threshold, and then you know what is your resting heart rate, and then you can calculate what are the
Hmm.
zones in between, and it gives you a fairly accurate way of trying to of doing the runs. And your coach or whoever it is can give you zone based workouts based both on heart rate as well as in terms of pace. Speed is something which is not to be looked at as a metric at all, because it doesn't say anything. You can be go fa- you, If you're going downhill, you can go faster. If you're
Yeah,
going uphill, you can go
yeah,
slower. So it doesn't give any indication.
yeah.
It's not a very good indication of any very good metric.
Hmm.
When it comes to cycling, you have to go by the best indicator is your functional threshold power,
Yeah.
which you have to actually measure using a proper device, power meter, to devise what is the power output you are able to maintain. But again, you have to do an FTP test. In swimming, yes, you have to do a 100-meter, 400-meter swim test, which will show you what is your best pace which you can do for a 100-meter pace, and then set your zones accordingly.
Hmm.
So these are the metrics which you should use for your training purposes. Either you're self-coached or your other coach is doing it. They will figure out these metrics and give you your training based on these metrics.
Yeah. And for people who have been doing this a little bit, we all follow VO2 Max, a big
Yeah,
metric.
yeah.
And just 2 days ago, Christian Blumenfeld, he recorded world's highest recorded VO2 Max of 101.1 ml
Wow,
per kg per minute.
wow.
That is huge, given VO2 max above 80 is considered to be unique globally. People like us are probably in 40s, 50s, max somebody's in 60s, but this is like another level. But what is it, if you can talk about it, and how important it is for regular endurance athletes?
It's VO2 max is, forget about regular athletes. I think for anybody, VO2 max is the ultimate biomarker of how fit you are.
Hmm.
Is the ultimate biomarker. Like, I heard of Peter Attia saying that he is trying to find out what is the crossover point when his age is higher than his VO2 max. So he's trying to figure out, like, I think Peter Attia must be something like around mid 50s or something now.
Hmm.
I don't know whether his VO2 max is more than that now. So he says that's the gold standard of trying to figure out how good you are,
Wow,
how high you are physically.
that is
See,
interesting.
my VO2 max for cycling is 53, and I am 70. Okay, so this is going to keep dropping. Your VO2 max, as you grow older and older, is going to keep dropping. But the idea is to let it drop slower and slower.
Yeah. Yeah.
VO2 max is important as an indicator of health, but it is not a make or break when it comes to a triathlete,
Mm-hmm.
because you are not running. Your VO2 max is not going to indicate to you whether you are going to. Christian Blumenfeld might have 101, but I want to see next time whether Christian Blumenfeld is he going to be the first in every event that is going to take place? Why did
Yeah,
it not happen?
yeah, those are not too directly correlated.
Exactly. So there are other factors. VO2 max is important, and it's more and more important as you come at that level. Level. But for an endurance triathlete, VO2 max is not all that important as your aerobic capacities.
Hmm. Which is how do you measure your aerobic capacity?
That's what I would say that if you want to know what is whether your aerobic capacity is improving, your heart rate should drop for the same pace. If, for example, you're running at six minutes, you do a 10-kilometer run, and your pace is 6,
Hmm.
right? And you see your heart rate is 140. After 2 years, you're doing the same. Let's say after 10 days or 15 days, or 1 month, you're doing the same thing. Your heart rate is 138. Your aerobic capacity has improved.
Oh, right. Okay. Got it.
You
Hmm.
got it? So it's a measure of how efficient your heart is working.
That makes sense. And if you're consistent, you will definitely see that change.
That means if you take over a period of time, let's say over if you're running a half Ironman in 6 hours time, how many times your heart would have beaten if it was 120 versus 140?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that itself shows you that your heart has got more efficient. It's
Yeah.
beaten lesser number of times, but you have done the same pace.
Yeah. That's super. Super. Um, any other metrics that you think are important?
I guess you have covered all the important metrics.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are so many other metrics, but this is good enough.
Yeah. Um, then I think one important topic that comes to my mind is about how we try to generate good metrics sometimes for the social media. And a lot is now driven by what I post on Strava, well, I don't put out so many reels, but of course, for a lot of people, it's any other social media platform. But it's just for me also, there have been cases where I think I try to get a good pace on a day. Of course, it's within the workout bracket given for the day, but I try to get more and more good because I want to post a good Strava workout. And I'm sure it happens for a lot of us, but that's really detrimental, I think, for the training per se sometimes.
Like, okay, there is a social media is what at the end of the day it is. You are looking for appreciation from from others, right? I mean, it's something very natural for you and I. We are not island. We are not an island by ourselves. We always want to get appreciation from somebody else, from the general world. Yes, um, you're doing something good. There's nothing wrong in it, but the problem comes when you get obsessed with it.
Yeah.
Like, if I'll say what's wrong, like say today I'm not feeling good, right? I get up in the morning, I'm not feeling good. Hey, but my followers, if they see that today I have not done something,
Yeah.
it is going to I'm going to feel bad that nobody has sent me
Yeah.
so I have to do this 10-kilometer run today. No, that is bad,
Yeah. I agree. It's
right?
very bad.
Yeah. So it's like how well if you're using social media just to socialize, which is what we are as human beings. We are social beings, right? That's why we call it social media,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
We require people. That's why do you do a triathlon? We can just go and run by yourself in this thing without any medals or anything. Come back, don't post anything. Are you going to be happy with it? No, you need some amount of self affirmation from outside.
Yeah.
But if that affirmation, external affirmation, is going to drive you, and is the only thing that's going to drive you, then I think you are in a dangerous place.
Yeah. And I also feel that in Strava, a lot many times, only a set of people end up noticing my workouts.
That's
And I have to
okay.
tell them to, and that's absolutely okay for me because I am trying to become better over a period of time, and only their feedback as such matters to me. Otherwise, just a random kudo with by 20 more people, it doesn't make any difference to my workout.
That's right. That's right.
Interesting. Then the last important topic that I wanted to cover definitely today is sleep and recovery. You touched upon that a couple of times in so far, but I don't think we pay attention to sleep and recovery so much, and sleep specifically as a tool to recover, and how important recovery is for anybody in general. But if you are into endurance sports, all the more for us.
Like we discussed earlier, see, the whole question of training has to be stress and de-stress. Both are important. When you are doing the workout, you're stressing. The gains of the stresses which you are putting during your workout are actually consolidated during your recovery phase. So if there is poor recovery or there's no recovery, then the gains of whatever gains you have got there, either let's just take a metric. Let's say you've done 10 out of 10 workout, but your recovery has not been 10 out of 10, it is 5 out of 10. So the net result is, I'm being very crude about it. The net result is your training effectiveness of your training is 10 multiplied by 0.5.
Hmm. Hmm.
You got it? If you got to get 10, if you got to consolidate those gains, your recovery has to be 10 out of 10.
Hmm.
Now, when you're talking about if now that I've established that the importance of recovery, the question is, how do you recover? What are the means of recovery?
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
there are many ways of recovering.
Hmm.
The best recovery is sleep.
Right.
Now, and when you sleep, you're doing the maximum recovery happens during your sleep. So, if your sleep is compromised or it is not, you don't have a good quality sleep, your gains are to that extent are not are compromised.
Hmm.
So, I would say that I tell many of the people that if you are going to do a workout, if you haven't got your 8 hours of sleep, you got only 7 hours, okay, go ahead and do it. If you got 6 hours, doesn't matter. You cut your workout short, you sleep that extra 1 hour and cut your workout short, or don't do the workout at all. You're better off not doing
That's
the workout.
that's so important. And I've learned it
It's
the
very tough. It's very
it is
tough.
very tough. I've learned it over the years, but
Yeah.
I didn't used to follow that initially. But that's so important. But what are the other tools for recovery then? Sleep is one.
Um,
How about nutrition also?
Nutrition is not so much of recovery as it's a kind of it's not actually recovery. Your nutrition is a different dimension altogether.
Hmm.
Your recovery is apart from sleep. You need to give your mind a rest. You need to give your giving your body a rest is one thing. Giving your mind a rest. You have to focus on music or do some other activity or play with your children or something where you give your mind also rest.
Hmm.
So then there are other forms of recovery like foam rolling, when you stretching, and using an ice therapy. Like
Mhm.
if you get into a tub of cold water and give yourself a good ice therapy bath, or massages. These are all recovery techniques.
Hmm.
Now, all these techniques are definitely going to help you, but nothing is going to help you as much as sleep.
Wow. Okay. So sleep comes at the top.
Yeah, you can do all the other ones also, which is also helpful. Going for a massage, deep tissue massage, like once in a month or
Hmm.
something like that, definitely is a recovery tool. And you should doing foam rolling also relieves the fascia gets released. So these are other recovery tactics.
Hmm. Got it. Okay. That's very interesting. Um, we touched upon this topic briefly. Anything you would like to add on strength and training per se? We said it's not a choice. I mean, we go for it, but anything particular on
Yeah,
so
strength training is absolutely important because you see when what as endurance athletes what we are concentrating on is the engine. If you look at your body as an engine and chassis, let's say, there are other things involved in it, but then for the time being, let's to say engine and chassis. There's a lot of ways of looking at the body. Your heart is the engine. Your aerobic capacity, VO2 max, all that we're talking about is you're getting your engine as strong as possible. But if your chassis is weak, what's the use of the car?
Yeah.
A car with a fantastic engine and a weak chassis is going to break down,
Yeah.
right? So you got to building up the chassis is strength training, and strength training is important for definitely important for trials. It's important for everybody, but the question is, you should always think about strength training is should be targeted. What are you doing the strength training for? If you're a marathon runner, you're going to do a different type of strength training. If you are a swimmer, you're going to do a different type of pure swimmer, you're going to do a different type of strength training. If you are a pure cyclist, you're going to do a different type of strength training. If you're a triathlete, you're going to do a different type of strength training. If you're a power lifter, you're doing a different type of strength training. If you are just into general fitness, you're doing a different type of strength training. Now, strength training is composed of many parts. There's stability, there's mobility, there's flexibility, and there is strength. So you got to work on different aspects of strength, and when you work on it is very important. For a triathlete, I would say that in general, if you divide your triathlon phase into let's say 4 month period, okay, and you say in 4 months you're going to do a triathlon. Your first phase is, I would say, 3 or 4 days a week you do strength training. You reduce your strength training to 3, 2, and almost 0 with that last 2 or 3 weeks, because the problem is that you don't have enough time to do strength training at that time, because you're going to be doing a very high volume at that time.
Yeah.
And probably if your strength coach, maybe you have to do more of flexibility and stretching towards the end of the period rather than actual strength training.
Yeah. And also you would have built your strength already, right?
You would have built your strength.
Build your strength in the
You
last
can't build
2
it in the
weeks.
last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
In fact, that's actually counter effective. In fact, strength training is very, 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 very important, especially when you get injured.
That's right. Yeah.
Then you
that's
have
a
to
part of your physiotherapy recovery.
right.
Rehab.
So you know, for example, which part of your body is weak. So you work on that. For example, for me, I know that my leg, my flexibility in my leg is very low. So I have to start working because I keep running, and my kick is not very good in swimming. So I have to keep working on the flexibility of my legs.
Right.
And I know that my swim is my weakest. Therefore, I know that I have to work on shoulder mobility and ability to stretch. So I try to do dead hangs more.
Okay.
So that my catch improves when I swim.
Okay.
So you have to think about you have to see when you're talking about strength training, your coach or you should know what is your limiter.
Yeah.
Each person's limiter is different.
It's different, yeah.
So you work on, once you know what your limiters are, you start working on those limiters.
Yeah.
That is targeted strength training.
And I'm exploring a lot of this now. Leg has so many muscles and each becomes a limiter one at a time.
Yeah.
So you're just continuously moving from adding rather, one type of strength training to the other, and then trying to build base from there. But this was excellent chat, Coach.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your time. Lovely to hear your thoughts on so many topics and your own journey into endurance sports.
I would like to hear next time. I would like to hear more from you, and I would like to ask you the questions.
If you're listening and if you like this conversation, don't forget to follow this channel, and do send us your comments or any topics that you would like us to cover in the next episode. Until then, keep moving and keep trying.